I was gonna wear a cuter, like, wintry sort of outfit, but I have a fever of 102. But here's my nails, they're kind of wintry. We have a month until the year is over. I wanted to recommend some really short books today that I personally have used in the past to get my reading goal up there. All of these books are below 300 pages. I have 20 books today and more than half of them are under like 250 pages. My goal this year is 75. I think like 2 months ago I was at like 25 books, so I've made a lot of progress. I'm gonna go in order from shortest to longest. First book is The Yellow Wallpaper. It is 62 pages long. It is by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. She's set up to be like mentally unwell, and she starts thinking that through the yellow wallpaper in this room that she is in, that things are trying to like claw their way out at her. And it's just really interesting because like you don't know what is actually happening and what isn't. Second one, I actually just finished this book, is The Mistletoe Mystery. It is 112 pages. It's by Nita Prose and it is a seasonal book. The beginning was really cute. It kind of like hooked me in because it was about like, you know, her and her husband and like her traditions with her grandma, and it just very much like it felt like you were a part of like her family. Next we have a book called The Service Berry. Essentially it's about communities and the bond that we all share. So it was really just like an interesting like mindful book, and it is also 112 pages. Next we have Dearly by Margaret Atwood. If you don't know, she's also the same person who wrote The Handmaid's Tale. Dearly is sort of like a poetry book, but it's honestly, it's kind of morbid and it's from Margaret Atwood's perspective. It's not like about a character, if that makes sense. It's about like loss and grief. At the time when Margaret Atwood wrote this, she was 80 years old, and you could really tell that like death was on her mind when she was writing it, and it is 124 pages. Next we have kind of a weird one, Elevation by Stephen King. I read this one recently as well. It's 144 pages, and the plot is kind of interesting. It's essentially this guy who, he looks kind of like overweight, and every single day he's been losing weight, but only like the scale changes, like he doesn't change, like the way he looks doesn't change. And so that was my dog, she howls. But he's slowly dying as he's getting lighter and lighter and lighter. Next we have another kind of weird one, The Widow's Husband's Secret Lie by Frida McFadden. Frida McFadden also wrote The Housemaid. That's probably her most popular book. This book was kind of like a parody. So it's not like a parody in the way it's like an SNL sketch. It's like a parody in the way it's like Scary Movie. Like the characters are taking it completely seriously, but you know that the writer was writing it with like a sense of humor. There's probably like 9 plot twists in this book, and it's only 152 pages. And the entire premise is the blue and black or white and gold dress. I'm not even kidding. That's like the premise. And I enjoyed it thoroughly. I loved it because it was like, she has this husband that she had like issues with. He dies, and then she meets like this other woman who claims to know the husband, and they're like in their relationship, like a big like rift between them that started when she like knew things were going downhill is when they disagreed on what color the dress was. I really hope it was written as a parody. Imagine I'm like, well, clearly this was made with a sense of humor, but she like was being serious. I hope she wasn't being serious, but even if she was, it's still a good book. I just thought it was really funny. I really hope I don't like go to edit this and I'm like, oh my god, my voice sounds awful. That's all I've been thinking about. My next recommendation is An Elderly Woman is Up to No Good. This was originally translated from Swedish. Helene Tursten, I think, and Marlene Delegary. I don't know. Basically it's an old lady who murders people, but then she uses like her old lady like naivete to be like, oh, I don't know, I just woke up and there's this dead man on the floor, like, you know what I mean. It's 174 pages. Next we have the first book I actually have a copy of, which is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I've talked about this book so many times. I have multiple copies of it, and it's one of my favorite classics. It is 180 pages long, and it's a classic, so it's kind of like, why wouldn't you read it? Set in the Harlem Renaissance, that sort of like new things, New York City. It's set at East and West Egg, so like old money, new money, and it's sort of about those money dynamics. And it's also a love story. It's unrequited love, which is one of my favorite tropes. There's so much symbolism in this book, it's actually like overwhelming. Next we have The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho? It's 182 pages. I also consider this a classic. It's about a man named Santiago who travels from his home in Spain to the Egyptian deserts. And it's really just, I appreciate it because it's such a simple book. It's so simple. The journey is so like, I don't want to say straightforward, but it's like there's a very common goal throughout the entire book, which is, I think, really easy to concentrate on when you're reading. And also there's so many good quotes in this book. Like there's so much like wisdom, and just you can tell that the author, like, he's pouring in like all of his life knowledge into this novel. Then we have A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. I reread this book every single year and I love it every single year. I always read it like first snowfall or like the first day I feel like it's like, wow, it's almost Christmas, which is usually like a month and a half prior. But isn't this such a cute little book? Look how tiny it is. So Goodreads told me this was 184 pages, but it's actually 122. So get on your stuff, Goodreads. I don't know if I got maybe a mini edition. I don't have an extended edition, so I'm gonna leave it in the spot in the video it is in. But mine's 122 pages, so I don't know. I think we all know the story, right? It's a classic novel, but Scrooge hates Christmas. He hates it. He's a little frumpy, grumpy old man, and he gets visited by 3 ghosts: Christmas past, present, and future. And throughout these, he goes back to his old memories and he learns about his childhood self and all these memories that he has, and some of them are painful and some of them give him hope for the future. And at the end of it, he transforms into essentially a completely different person, and he's suddenly grateful and he's cheerful and all this, and he does charity, and yeah, and it's just a great little story about like people being able to change and what our generosity means to other people. Next we have The Happiest Man on Earth by Eddie Jaku. It is 200 pages long. It's a incredibly detailed novel from the perspective of somebody who went to multiple concentration camps during World War II. And it highlights his experience with losing his family and escaping and being brought to new concentration camps, his pride in his home country in Germany, and then suddenly being told he was no longer a German, and sort of like the loss of identity that he had. But he talks about his gratitude in every step of the way, and like even in the worst conditions he thought to himself, well, it could be worse. It could be worse. This could be worse. So he was always, like, every step of the way grateful for what he did have. Next we have Coraline by Neil Gaiman. My copy is so cool. Wait, let me show you. You see that? You see it? Like the little hands? Yeah, it's pretty cool. Anyways, Coraline by Neil Gaiman. This is a children's horror book, which is rare. Basically, Neil Gaiman wrote horror books and his daughters wanted to read a horror novel, and so he made them a children's horror book. And I love this book. I reread it every single year. It is 208 pages. Might I just say, it is so much scarier than the movie is, because in the book, the tunnel is alive. The tunnel's alive. It's gross. And she's, oh, because you know how in the movie it's like blue and purple and pretty. In the book, she like touches it and it's like breathing. Anyways, sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. If somebody like hasn't watched the movie or haven't read the book, like they're really confused right now. Essentially, Coraline's parents don't really give a gaff about her. They do, but like she's not friends with her parents like she wants to be. And when she discovers under her house a little tunnel that goes to a place that is like her home but better, and the people are like her parents but better, but the only drawback is they have these creepy ass eyes. I feel like everybody knows the story of Coraline, so I feel like I'm being weird by explaining it. Next we have Into the Wild by Jon Krakauer. Essentially, this book is about Chris McCandless, who, if you don't know, it was a big deal in the early 2000s, late 90s, something like that. This rich boy went on a trip all by himself, travels to Alaska, and he climbs the Devil's Thumb, which I don't know if that's its actual name. The Devil's Thumb. Yeah, that's just what it's called. Okay, I thought it would maybe have a more scientific name, but the Devil's Thumb, which is a mountain that he decides to climb. And he dies. That's not a spoiler, by the way. Like, it's like known he dies at the beginning of it. But essentially, Jon Krakauer put together all of Chris McCandless's influences that he like lived by and decided to climb this mountain and go on this dangerous trip for, with the journals that he found of Chris McCandless, with also the other people's perceptions, like his family members and friends, of Chris McCandless. And he bridges them all together. It's beautiful. He's an amazing writer. I love that book so much. And if anyone's wondering what my opinion is, I personally do not think that Chris McCandless was just a selfish little boy. I think he was trying to discover himself, trying to find life, trying to find joy. And everybody who's like, oh, he was just a rich kid who like wanted some edge. Shut up. But what rich kid would go, oh my god, I need some edge, let me go climb a mountain in the middle of Alaska and live by myself for years on end because I hate people so much. That'll give me some edge. Like, no, they'd be in like the Hamptons with some mofos. Like, 217 pages. Next, I'm going to talk about Astrophysics for People in a Hurry. I read this thinking it was going to be a novel for some reason. It wasn't. It's about astrophysics. I was reading it and I was like, wait, this is like science. And I'm actually having fun. 224 pages. Sometimes I feel like the equivalent to like science books is like mansplaining when you're talking to somebody. That's kind of how it feels whenever I read books like that, but I actually really enjoyed this one. Another classic is The Notebook by Nicholas Sparks, and it is 227 pages. It's a classic, you know, I've talked about it before in videos for sure, I feel like, probably. Yeah, I talked about it in my tropes video. But in case you don't know, The Notebook is a classic romance novel. It's like the romance novel, like, of all time. Like, ever. Like, it's the romance movie as well. They're together when they're young, and then she moves away. And when she moves away, he writes her 365 letters every single day for a year. She doesn't respond to any of them. He's like, well, fuck. A few years later, she's getting married. She sees that he built the house that she told him was her dream house. And it's this like weird miscommunication trope, which I don't usually love, but I enjoyed this book a lot. But yeah, classic romance novel, normalizes cheating. Yeah. Next we have two Matt Haig books. We have Reasons to Stay Alive, which is Matt Haig's like novel about himself, about depression. I've never read a book that is so vulnerable about mental health like in my life. Like, I've never read a book quite so honest before. My favorite Matt Haig book is The Midnight Library. It's one of my favorite books of all time. So I decided to read a bunch more of his books. This book is 256 pages. Next, also by Matt Haig, we have The Comfort Book. It is 272 pages. It's like, these are the things you should be grateful for. These are the things that, like, you know, you're not behind, you're not going too slow. Like, here's some things that might comfort you in terms of like people who are older than you, who have accomplished like things later in their life, things like that. Like, it genuinely just like, it minimizes your worries and it helps you not worry about the little things. Next we have Normal People by Sally Rooney. Here we are again. Y'all know me. Y'all know I'm gonna recommend this every video. I don't know why I talk about this book so much. I know why, it's one of my favorite books. Should I get a Normal People tattoo? It is 273 pages. It is a miscommunication trope to the max. To the max. I love reading a book that does not have a meet cute. I love reading a book that the relationship is realistic in the way that there is not 3 acts. Instead, there's like 6 acts in this, and they're all messy. Bright Lights Big Christmas by Mary Kay Andrews, which is obviously a Christmas book. 288 pages. Read this book if you like small town romance, like, we gotta save Christmas. Don't read this book if you don't like kids in books, because there's a kid in this book. I cannot stand children in books because the entire time I read it, I know it's an adult that wrote a child. Lastly, we have Before the Coffee Gets Cold. It is 293 pages by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. Is how I think that's pronounced. I really hope her last name is Kawaguchi because that's really cool. And Joffrey Trucelot. Essentially, it's a coffee shop that you can time travel in. Nothing will change in the past if you go to the past, but people still do it to like see loved ones. That is going to conclude my book recommendations for 20 books that you can read before the end of the year. I hope you guys enjoy this video. I hope you find some books that you enjoy on this list, and I hope you reach your reading goal. I will see y'all later. If I don't, cool. Bye.